I'm back, bitches. All right, this is the first time I've actually had to write down one of my rant review things when I'm doing pop culture stuff, like movies and stuff. But this time I had to do it because I wanted to make sure I said everything that I wanted to say and I didn't miss out on anything. Because I'm always forgetting points that I wanted to make or things that I wanted to reference. So I'm going to be reading this. Ready? All right, here we go. So this is obviously about the new Sandman show. I was debating whether or not I wanted to say anything positive about this show because it's on the racist Netflix network, which I don't like promoting, and because of something else, which I'll talk about later. But after going back and forth, I decided to just be fair and honest and to give some praise. Now, before I start, I want to be clear. I was able to see this for free. I did not watch this by paying Netflix at all. I hate Netflix. All right? Now, with that being said, let's just get into it. So when this show started, I was so pleased and impressed that I was surprised that this was something associated with Netflix. But yeah, the writing, the pacing, the acting, the cinematography, the camera work, the special effects, the coloring, the sets, the soundtrack, the costumes, it was all unbelievably perfect. I can't stress that enough. And everything that I just mentioned was perfect for the entire season, except the pacing and the writing. So about 4 or 5 episodes in, the pacing just took a jump right out the window and fucking died. The writing suffered too, but it wasn't that bad lazy writing that I'm always talking about. It was just obviously more filler, more crap being jammed in just to extend the season out to the 10 episodes that was ordered. So it was a lot of excess crap that they had to put in there just to make it longer, and it suffered as a result. Now, before I continue, I've always known about Sandman. I've seen images of him as well as covers for his graphic novels, but I've never read anything about him. So I don't know anything about him or any of his stories. So the filler I'm referring to, just to be fair, it may have actually been part of the story and it may have needed to be in there. But as a viewer, I was completely knocked out of the story while I'm watching it. The show, it went from being like one of the best things I've ever seen, this unique, grand experience, just to some crappy WB drama from the 2000s, right down to the soapy romance and the annoying kid who does stupid shit that no fucking kid would do. That serial killer convention thing took way too long. There was no need to have an entire episode and a half dedicated to that crap. It was clearly filler, and it wasn't even executed properly. Oh, and before I continue, why was Constantine turned into a woman? Why do they keep doing that? Is being a male a bad thing? They keep trying to erase us from our own fucking stories. What was the reasoning behind that? What would happen if they came out with a Mr. Marvel movie and replaced Brie Larson with a man? I don't think that would be acceptable, would it? If it's not acceptable, then why is this shit acceptable? Why do they keep removing us men from the stories that men wrote and that initially starred male characters? If you want a female story, then make a new female story or pick a product that has female characters in it, and then just put that on. Stop taking the stuff that we love because we've made it so big and popular and famous, and then removing us from the stories. It's very disrespectful. All right, let me get back to the pacing of the story. So another thing that was out of place was that vortex arc. It felt really disconnected from the story, and the characters that were actually interacting with Dream, the characters from that arc that were interacting with Dream, their interactions felt awkward. It felt like I was watching characters interacting from two completely different shows, and even the characters themselves from the arc were annoying and irritating. Again, I'm sure they were people from the graphic novel, and fans may have recognized them, but as a random viewer, they didn't incorporate them properly. That is, if they were from the graphic novel in the first place. Then you got the diner episode where the guy was watching all the people and trying to make sure that they didn't, um, that they, I guess, told the truth instead of lying or whatever the fuck he was trying to do. That episode was needed. I realized that. But the writing for it was done poorly. It went on for way too long. That it didn't need to be the entire episode. It felt like you're driving in a Lamborghini. The show itself felt like you were sitting in a Lamborghini on a 90-degree day and you're driving with the windows open. And you're moving along at 90 miles per hour, just cruising. You got the wind in your face. It's cool air just coming into the car and you're enjoying it. And then when you hit this episode, it's like you're driving your car, you turn a corner, and then you're just stuck in parking lot traffic, moving along an inch at a time with no wind and just brutal heat. And it's not like this was an action show or anything, but the refreshing, fantastic elements of the story, that's what really elevated everything. And then you go into this diner and have to deal with petty people talking about their boring lives, and then all of a sudden you're thrust into this sick, gross fucking orgy scene that nobody wanted to see. And that's going to lead me into my second issue, the sexuality. So let me say this first. I'm about to talk about homosexuality, so I just want to say this. It may sound like I have an issue with homosexuals being shown on TV, but I don't. I'm glad that homosexuals are being given an opportunity to be represented, even though it's still really just a benefit for white people at the expense of other groups. For example, Asians are still underrepresented and they outnumber homosexuals of every race combined, but you really don't see them on television. So it's not really about representing people, it seems. But I am glad that homosexuals are able to watch TV and not just see heterosexual people all the time as if homosexuals don't exist. I really don't mind them being represented. I am very serious about that. Now, with that being said, I personally won't be able to watch season 2 of this show because I don't want to see two men kissing and being intimate. It disturbs me and it disgusts me. If it happens once in a while in a show, whatever. But if it's happening in almost every single episode, then it's something I'm going to have to opt out of. And in this show makes it look like in this world, this 95% of the people are homosexuals. And it makes me wonder how there's so many people walking around because only 5% of the people seem to be heterosexual. So where the fuck are the babies coming from? And it's just something I just don't want to see. And people are saying, well, why don't you want to see it? Or how can you say that that's disgusting? Why, whatever people may say. Well, it's the same way Hollywood has made it their mission to exclude voluptuous women from their industry because I guess it's offensive to them. A woman with large hips or large butt or large breasts, they're never ever seen in shows or movies. You never see a voluptuous woman as a leading star in any show. Even if the role calls for the woman to be voluptuous in some way, it's still some skinny woman with padding and a push-up bra. It's like they're not allowed to have them in the industry, and I'm assuming it's because Hollywood has some kind of aversion to those types of women. So if they can have an aversion to something, so can I. So I don't want to see it, and I'm not something I want to see. Now, normally I wouldn't be here saying any of this. It would have been my own personal thing, and I wouldn't have made a video about it. Just kept it to myself. But the reason I decided to make a video is because of the anti-black racism that's constantly being pulled by whites. White people are using their media to push propaganda that they hope will get rid of all blacks. I know people will think I'm just being crazy, but I don't give a fuck. This message is for any black people with a brain who may be listening. White media is working to convince us black people of two things. First is this: homosexuality is something you should really be into. Forget about that heterosexual lifestyle that will ensure that blacks continue to reproduce. This homosexual lifestyle is great. And you know why it's great? That's going to lead me into the second thing that they're trying to convey to us black people. If you blacks adopt this homosexual lifestyle, well then, us white people will then be more accepting of you. Finally, right? You can fuck us if you want. We'll let you come around us. And you'll also have more access to the jobs that we create. Want to be on TV or make music or be in our media? Well, if you're into this homosexual thing, we'll hire you. You'll have to either play a homosexual or you'll have to use the platform that we give you to help us push our homosexual propaganda. That's the thing that's going on here, and it's plain to see, and it's becoming a real annoying thing, and that's why I'm talking about it. And Netflix is a perfect example. Almost every show that I've watched on Netflix when I used to watch them all the time engages in this. According to Netflix, 50% of black society is comprised of homosexuals because every other black person I see on Netflix is a homo. And I'm only doing this to be fair because I've done this before in other videos. I'm getting annoyed doing it. But I'm going to go down the list of shows once again that have led me to this conclusion so that people don't think that I'm just saying rubbish and I'm just spewing BS. I want you to know that I'm not lying. I've seen this on almost every show that I've watched that's included a black person or black people. And the same isn't done for white shows. So I'm going to go down this list. If you want, and if you care, which I'm sure you don't, you can go online if you're interested and you can see if what I'm saying is accurate. All right. So first we have Troy, Fall of a City. That's the name of the show. And now everybody here has heard of the Greek warrior Achilles, right? He's Greek and he's white. But in this show, which I saw on Netflix, you have two firsts. This is the first time in this character's history that they've made him black. Wow. Wonder why they did that. Well, this is also the first time in this character's history that they portrayed him as a homosexual. And they even made his homosexual lover another black person. Now, why did you make Achilles black? He's always been known to be a white European male. Did you make him black because you knew you were going to make him into a homosexual? Next, you got Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Again, everyone's heard of Sabrina. She's the white girl who's a witch. In the comic books, Sabrina has a white cousin who is a homosexual. For some unknown reason, they put the homosexual cousin in the show, but they turn him into a black male. So this white girl's cousin is now black? Why is that? What's the obsession with white people making sure that they have a black homosexual in their shows? What other reason would they have with needing to make sure audiences see blacks as homosexual? Next, we have Black Mirror. This one threw me for a loop. In their third season, they have an episode titled Striking Vipers. In this episode, you have a black man enjoying his life with his beautiful black wife, when all of a sudden, his black best friend comes along and reveals that he's actually a homosexual and he's always wanted to have sex with his black friend. And so these two black friends, throughout the rest of the episode, they wind up engaging in virtual homosexual sex with each other. And this culminates into a scene where they need to kiss each other in the real world. Again, this show was written and produced by white people. Why did they feel the need to make this particular episode with black people? White people never seem to want to include us in their stuff unless they can make us look like homosexuals or make us look negative in some way. All right, last one. Love is Blind. This is a quote-unquote reality show about heterosexual people meeting, falling in love, and getting married. Heterosexual people, got it? Well, the producers of this show decided that while casting all heterosexual white males, they're going to cast, out of all the black men on the planet, a homosexual one. So what happens? Well, the inevitable. The black homosexual tricks one of the black women on the show into thinking he's heterosexual. They then get married and their relationship immediately fails. And they were the only black couple on the show. Why do you think the white people who made this Netflix show decided to pick a homosexual man to appear in a reality show about heterosexuals? I'm not even going to give you my reason. You just sit there and think about that. And going forward, when you watch TV or movies, count how many times you have a black homosexual included. Now, that's 4 examples off the top of my head. I'm sure I'd have more, but I stopped watching Netflix a while ago, and I'll only check out something that people suggest to me from Netflix if I can find it for free somewhere, which was the case with this show. And again, this isn't just something Netflix is doing, eroding the black family and trying to destroy that the idea of a black man and a black woman getting together, creating children, and reproducing and continuing the growth of the black population. You have other shows and movies as well, like The Orville, which created an entire race of black male homosexuals who all hate women and procreate by fucking each other in the butthole. Or The Eternals, which is a movie where they picked the only black character who isn't a homosexual in the original story, and they chose him to be the homosexual for audience to see. Even in cartoons for children now, like the new Buzz Lightyear movie, which has a black female who marries a woman and somehow has a child, which I just realized while writing this is going to confuse children. If I was a kid and I saw this, I'd have to ask, how did those 2 women get fucking pregnant and have a son? Now, if you don't wonder why all this stuff is being done, then you're probably a moron. So stop watching this and go about your fucking business. So I said all that stuff that I said to show where I'm coming from when I talk about this Sandman show. In this show, every single black person is either asexual, meaning their sex isn't mentioned, or they're a homosexual. To be fair, there are 2 heterosexual black couples shown. Both aren't really focused on that much, and out of those 2, one is a toxic relationship that ends in divorce. Other than that, it's nothing but homosexuality for the blacks. In the beginning, the rich son of Mr. Burgess is a homosexual, and his homosexual lover is a black person. Then you have female Constantine. Her homosexual lover is also a black person. Then in the diner episode, the black male somehow winds up engaging in homosexual sex with the cook. Then you find out that the homosexual girl from that same diner episode is actually the homosexual lover of the black girl who plays the Vortex. It's just black homosexual palooza in this shit. According to the white media, black men and women don't belong together. We have to either be in a relationship with people of other races or we have to be fucking homosexuals. And it's not even just a black thing. I'm so sick and fucking tired of seeing ads for these teen romance fuck dramas that show a non-white girl and she's always in love with a handsome white boy. She could be Asian, Hispanic, black, Native American, doesn't matter. She's always going gaga over a white kid. This is why this inclusion bullshit is irrelevant to me, because it's not inclusion. I don't think I ever see any shows with an Asian male even dating an Asian woman. They just don't even put him in the show. Or a Hispanic person who is dating a white girl. That shit is not shown on television. White people still own the media and they pick and choose who gets what role and what message is being pushed. So it's their racist propaganda being pushed. When I was young, they made you think black women weren't attractive if you watched television. They flooded the airways with these beautiful white women. And then the few times that you did see a black woman who got picked to be on the show, they purposely cast a mediocre looking one, if not a downright ugly one. So this show, let me get back to the show, it started off great to me, and then it devolved into racist filler shit trash that I wouldn't recommend. Fuck Netflix. Oh, yeah, I almost forgot. I wanted to mention one other thing that I forgot to write down. I'm glad I remembered. One other thing I experienced in this show, and I'm going to leave you with this. This may be insignificant to everyone else, but certain people will get this. In one episode, they show Death going around and collecting souls. Cool. What stood out to me in that episode is this. Out of the 6 people that died, half of them were young black males. One drowned, the other was shot, and the last one was hit by a car. Young black males being killed off prematurely. Killed off. They did show one young white male in the episode, but guess what happened to him? Well, instead of him dying or being killed or murdered or something like that, he was actually gone on to gain immortality. And then he went on to become good friends with a god. White power.